really a high-level overview of, we like to call it the movie version of the Traction book. If you don't have a copy of that book, you'll get one here at the end. As part of coming in, we like to get that book in the hands of many small business owners and entrepreneurs as we can. So why don't we just get into it? We're going to walk through, like I said, it's about an hour, 10 minutes or so of content, and I'll be respectful of time. We'll definitely be done by 10 o'clock, if not a little bit earlier. So what are we doing today? We're here to help you achieve what you wanted to get out of your business. And really the thing that we say to entrepreneurs is always is, why did you get into business? What are you looking to get out of your business? And what are the steps you're taking to make that happen? And so we want entrepreneurs to help realize their vision. And we do that through helping them on execution, building a business plan that is not 50 pages, but just a couple pages, right? We talk about simplicity and being concise because as entrepreneurs, we don't have a lot of time. And so we want to make sure that that time is spent doing the right thing. So helping you achieve your vision. You'll hear the word simple come out of my mouth a bunch of times. These concepts that we're talking about are simple. They're timeless. They've been around for 100 years. They'll be around for 100 more years, right? They're going to be things that you recognize and have seen in other work, other companies, other walks of life. I think the art and the simplicity is the way that it's all brought together. And that's what we'll talk about when we talk about the 6 components of EOS and strengthening those and helping your business. So simplicity will be a theme that we'll hear throughout today. And then lastly, there's going to be one thing here, I promise you, that you're going to be able to take and put into your business right away. And we'll talk about the foundational tools throughout, and then at the end there's a little bit of a wrap up there. But I promise you, and my commitment is that you'll have something that you can implement and say, okay, I'm going to start doing that right away. It'll help me get a little traction, help me execute better in my business. So that is the takeaway here. And if it's more than that, great, but I know there'll be at least one. So that's the promise to you. So let's talk about our agenda here. So the first thing we always talk about when we talk with our companies and people that we're working with is that we just try to get real with you, with your business, what you're about, what you're trying to accomplish, and then we also try to be real with all of our clients. So we're going to do that throughout the day today. That's really just thinking about what is your business and thinking about and on your work and not being in your work, which is where entrepreneurs spend a lot of their time. So we'll be on your business. And so that's when we get about getting real. As I mentioned, we're going to keep it simple throughout the day. You can always ask me a question if you need any clarification, but as I said, these concepts are things that you're going to be familiar with and that you heard the beauties in the packaging. And then lastly, we're going to help you get results. Like I said, you have one thing that you can take away, implement in your business, and really make a difference right away upon leaving the meeting. So, just want to get into the first part of this. So when we say getting real about you, I know a little bit about Dave's business. I don't know much about your business. So just share with me, if you wouldn't mind, a little bit about what you do and kind of a little bit of your story about your business. Then Debbie, I'll let you go as well. But we know, since we know each other. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we started a preschool daycare center here in Queen Creek 15 years ago.
Awesome.
And we've been growing. And this year in particular, we are opening 2 additional campuses.
Oh, wow.
So we're scaling. I did payroll yesterday. We have 28 on our payroll now.
Wow.
So it's, I joined the chamber a few months ago, just really wanting to network and learn from other business owners and people. This team is incredible to be able to put together these opportunities. So I'm just trying to take advantage of them and
Absolutely.
learn as much as I can, so I don't mess up.
Which is okay, because guess what's going to happen? We all do it, right? So that, to give yourself a break on that, but that's an awesome story, and scaling is fantastic. And yeah, look around. My wife and I also own a little haircut shop up in Tempe, and started with a couple people, and then look around and say, wait a second, this payroll run is actually a little more significant than what we started with, right? And look around and say, okay, are we ready for this?
Right,
Happen? So, good for you. Congratulations. David, why don't you share just a little bit? I don't know you, but let's go share about a little business, your original idea, and what you were thinking about when you got started, and where you are right now.
Yeah, so when I moved here a year and a half ago, I have an aunt in Scottsdale. I went to go visit her, and she introduced me to a friend. And when the friend walked away, she said, "Oh, she has a home watch business." And I thought, "Oh, that's sort of interesting." And I'm getting burnt out from teaching. I wanted to start like something different, and so I started a home watch business, and I have 5 official clients so far, and today I'm meeting with one, and then I have another one that I need to be calling this morning, hopefully to meet. So this is the time when They're leaving. I started late last year when they were leaving. So I had 3 clients last year, and then I was helping another home watch company watch his homes too. So it's a very supportive business group. So.
Do I count as a client yet? Since you
Yes,
Money was
yes.
good.
Okay, up to 6
Gonna
official
take care of me in
clients.
June, so yes, excellent, great job. Thanks, Debbie, appreciate it. And Debbie also is president of our networking group here locally as well, so does a lot of hard work there, keeping us all straight together, so thanks, Debbie. Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about EOS and how this all come to light and come together. So Gino Wickman is really the founder of all things EOS, wrote the book Traction, good-looking guy, might look a little bit like me, or me like him, I don't know which one of us is a little bit older. So Gino is a serial entrepreneur and has been an entrepreneur his whole life, starting really at the age of 21. He was actually asked to come back and run his family business. He lives in Detroit, and to run that family business and took that family business through a rebuild, a growth, and then an actual sale, and was really involved in transitioning out of that business. But while he was doing that, he realized he had a real knack and the passion for helping entrepreneurs, and kind of figured out, oh, this is the way an entrepreneurial company should work. And so then he started to develop really the art and science behind building entrepreneurial companies, and started working with a bunch of other entrepreneurs in and around Detroit. And it was through those interactions, his own experiences, that he said, I've got something here. And he created EOS from his personal experience and then working with these other entrepreneurs in Detroit. And just a funny story here, so the presentation that we're going through today is something that we share across the country. We are very process driven, not surprisingly, being EOS, and so we all do share the same material when we have an opportunity to talk in front of a group. So I went back, and there's actually a video of Gino delivering this very presentation with this content from 2012, and it's the same thing that I'm going to be talking about here 11 years later. So the consistency is there. It really hasn't changed much over time, because these are concepts that are timeless, they are very practical, and they do resonate whenever they're put into place. And when businesses do choose to utilize these concepts, they move their business forward, that they work each time they're tried. You got to stick to them. So I did mention they're simple. They're not necessarily easy. Right. So simple concepts, but it's hard work to make sure that you maintain the discipline about implementing them into your organization. So do make that clarification: simple, but not necessarily easy. Today, so once Gino founded this organization, he started working with other clients and say, I had something here, and then he started adding others and teaching them how to teach EOS, and that was the beginning of this. And so it started out with a couple people, and then grew to 30 people, then 50 people. So today we have 650 what we call implementers. That's what I do, 650 implementers across the globe. So New Zealand, Australia, Europe, one in Japan, US, Canada. The majority are here in US and Canada, but it is an international, or Europe, so international organization. And right now, 19,000 companies work with someone like me to implement EOS. And we have run, and when we meet with the company, we meet with them for a full day. We call it a session day, and we're now at 135,000 full session days completed with clients. So pretty crazy growth trajectory over just the first 10 years, and we have a very aggressive target for 2030. So throughout that, we'll talk about 10-year target here in a little bit, but we are working towards a pretty aggressive target moving forward. So big growth goals in our organization, because not surprisingly, we run on EOS. What Gino found in working with all these entrepreneurs is that they fit into 2 buckets, but they're uneven buckets. So what he found is 95% of entrepreneurs don't have a grip on their business. They may be succeeding, but it is tons of hours, tons of energy, sometimes misplaced energy, but they are not getting traction. They may not be realizing the vision. That may be something different than what they thought they were getting into business in the first place. So that's the 95%. Only about 5% of the entrepreneurs he comes across have what he would describe as a well-run business that is operating well, hitting on all cylinders, and really moving forward. And so Gino began obsessing about, how do I help the 95% to be look a lot more like the 5%, right? And what he found was that there's really 5 things that entrepreneurs come across that gets in the way. We call them the 5 frustrations The first one is a real lack of control with what's going on around them. Right? They added a couple employees, they've added another location, it became 2, it became 4, it became 8, now it's 20, then it's 30, and all of a sudden they've lost control. And we like to say their business is this van hurtling down the highway, and the entrepreneur is the one chasing that van as it hurtles down the highway, trying to catch up to the pace and speed of what he or she has created. So it's a very common feeling among entrepreneurs, and how do you get control of that business? The second one that we find is, not surprisingly, profit, and very specifically, lack of profit. Lots of energy. Business was started, I'm not going to work for anybody else. I'm going to be my own boss. Right? I'm going to go do this, right? I'm going to be able to have a flexible schedule. I'm going to be able to spend my time with my family doing the things that I want, have that opportunity to work for myself. Well, if there's the profit to follow, right? And so that becomes a big frustration, because now all that time invested, it all of a sudden feels like I'm working for less than minimum wage with all the time I'm putting into this, right? So chasing down that profit. Unless you're a vet and you only have no one else working for you, people become a frustration, right? Adding people, you're adding a lot of folks. We feel that frustration, right? As you add people in there, they have different ideas about what work is, what your business is, and guess what? They don't align with what you decided that you wanted to do, right? So this is going to be a source as you try to grow, that how do you make sure that the people that you bring on have alignment with you about what you want to do and where you want to go. And even for you, Debbie, it may be just alignment with others that you're working with as partners. You and I talked a little bit about that, right? Is there even alignment with those that you're trying to partner with, or vendors, right? So how do you gain that alignment there? We'll talk a little bit about that frustration. Every business hits a ceiling. Regardless of the trajectory, we would love for the growth trajectory of a business to be a straight line from down here to up here. It's just not a reality. We don't do that as human beings, right? Our physical growth curve is full of, I get to a point, I level out, I get to a point, I level out. If you're in business, you're going to have that same thing. It's very rarely that straight up growth. And so we realize that, and we try to provide our entrepreneurs with tools to overcome those times when you're feeling stuck. You've hit that ceiling. How am I going to break through it? What am I going to lean on to break through that ceiling? So hitting the ceiling, very common frustration. And the last thing, and this is what we see from a lot of our clients, they've tried a lot of stuff. They've read the latest book or books. They've tried this consultant, they've tried this person, they've talked to this friend, they've joined this peer group. They've tried a lot of different things, so there's a real desire there too. They kind of, I know I need something, but I'm trying a lot of things, but nothing really gets hold. Nothing's really working. And so what we always say within EOS is, look, you need to run on a system. Whatever that system is, you need to run on a system, but just make it one system. Don't use more than one operating system when you're trying to run your business, because it will get confusing. Right? So just pick one, stick with it. We hope you pick EOS, but there are others out there, and there may be something that you read about that really works for you, that resonates with you. Perfect. Stick with it and roll with it. Right? So pick the one that's going to work best for you. So let's talk about keeping it simple. So I'm going to now move into EOS and the EOS model. This is in your workbook. It's the first page of your workbook. You're welcome to take notes in your workbook there as I go through it. I'm going to make 2 passes around this model, so we're going to spend the bulk of our time here working through each of these 6 components. So we start our model with your business in the middle, right? This is about you and your business, and then how can you strengthen these 6 key components. And you'll hear me say that word quite a bit, is strengthen the 6 key components, because our journey with our clients is to do just that. As we look at each one of these components, how do we get you stronger than you are today? And we'll talk about how we measure that when we look at that. So, like any good business, right? Like any idea that you start with that idea, you start with the vision. Okay, I went into business to do X. It might have been real passion, purpose. I just wanted to work for myself. I have an interest here, whatever it is, but you started with a vision. So that's where we start with our clients. The important thing within the vision is that everyone understands the vision. So everyone knows where you are today, and more importantly, where you're going. So how do you articulate that to people that you work with, but also people that you want to partner with? Being able to articulate your vision in a clear and concise manner so everyone knows the direction that you're moving. Critical. So I'll talk about vision. We talk about strengthening your people. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, but finding really good people is really unique for each and every business. Right? So we don't want to get stuck in using terms that are adapted from other companies and how they define good people. These are your people, and they're good for you in this way. We want to define who is a great person based on your business and the unique characteristics of it. So we'll talk about people. And then we'll talk about running your business on data. Running your business on data, this is a challenge for some entrepreneurs because they're so instinctual and they have a lot of emotion tied to the idea that they created. Right? We're emotional beings, and we have an idea, or if we really built a business around our passion or our cause, well, I'm going to have a lot of emotion tied to that. This is my baby, right? I've created this thing. But we want you to really look at it more logically, using facts and figures rather than emotion and gut instinct to make your decisions. You'll be very, we'll walk through how to, a real simple tool to do that. So what we find is once you get a real good understanding of where you're going and how you're going to get there with your vision, who are great people and how you're going to bring them on board, and what are the facts and figures, the data, the metrics that are driving your business, well, you build this, you create this transparency in your organization, and then the stuff that's getting in your way reveals itself, and we call those, not surprisingly, issues. Now, the important thing about issues is you actually want issues to come forward. So we really work with the clients to make sure there's lots of issues on your list, lots of issues that have been identified, so that when we do identify them as we go through, we're very upfront, we're open and honest about them, but once we find them, we show you how to solve them so that they go away forever. They don't keep recurring. This is part of the problem with the entrepreneurial world is these issues pop up, I solve it for just today, I put a Band-Aid on it, but guess what? It's coming up next week or next month or next year. It's going to come back. So how do you solve the issue once and for all so it goes away forever? The next area, the sexy area, is process. This is a tough concept sometimes because who wants to spend time building out process? But it's so critical if you want to scale. Building consistency within your processes so that you do the very most important things the right and best way each and every time. And then anyone that joins you knows how that's going to happen each and every time. So critical. So time spent here really pays off when it comes time to scale. Right? And it allows you to bring people in and help move your business forward. And then last but not least, traction. Right? How are you going to execute on your vision? Right? And that's why it sits at the bottom. We start with the vision, but really traction holds things together. And Gino's famous quote in traction, vision without traction is hallucination. Right? You got to be able to execute on the idea, or else it's just an idea. And you're just chasing something and it's fun, but is it getting you frustrated? Or lack of control, lack of profit? Right? Is that what's getting in the way? So that's our model. That's the first time. I'm actually going to spend time going through each one of these in a little more detail. And there's a couple tools there that are in your book that you can actually take some notes on and start thinking about how that would work in your business. Let me pause. Are there any questions or anyone with me so far? Good? Okay, great. Okay, so let's go back through the model. So when we talk about the model, I mentioned the word strengthening your 6 key components. We actually use a scientific but subjective scale of 0 to 100 when we talk about strengthening your business. So our goal is to get our clients to 80% strong in each of the 6 components. Right? And the tools and disciplines that we talk about there is to reach that goal. Now, it'd be great if we get 100% strong there, but we realize that it's utopia, and that's something that's really hard to achieve, that level of perfection. So what we do find is that most entrepreneurs run about 20% in these 6 key components, but they are succeeding in spite of themselves through blood, sweat, and tears, like hard work, right? Oh, I'll just work 5 more hours, 8 more hours. I'll just put that more time in there, and as I put that more time in there, we'll all get it. And then that's when we talk about, oh, your hourly rate is now $3 an hour because like you're running around like crazy. So our journey here is to really just get you to that 80% strong in each component. So let's talk about the vision component. Let's jump right in. There are 2 disciplines in the vision component. We're going to spend a lot of time on the first one because this is what actually makes up your 2-page business plan. Right? So what we talk about the vision component is answering 8 key questions. And they are actually outlined on the next 2 pages in the Vision Traction Organizer. And this becomes your business's 2-page business plan. You're an entrepreneur. You don't have a lot of time to create a 10-page, 20-page strategic deck like I used to do in the corporate world. Right? This is a 2-page plan that you can reference. It's fluid. You can update, and it allows you to stay on track with where you're going and how you're going to get there. So the 8 questions are in the orange outline there, but the first one is, what are your core values? The second one is, what is your core focus? The third is, what is your big target? We call it the 10-year target. It could be 5, it could be longer, but what is that big target that you're going after? The fourth is your marketing strategy. How are you thinking about growing your business? The fifth is the 3-year picture. What do the next 3 years look like to enable that 10-year plan? And then we really get grounded on the second page there. That's our traction side of the document. That's about getting execution. And the traction side is, what are you doing this year? So what's the 1-year plan? What do the next 90 days look like? The 90-day plan. And then what are the issues that you've got to deal with here and now right away? And as we go through and work with our clients and answer those 8 questions, this business plan comes together, and it's something we revisit with them quite often. We update it. It's very fluid. It's not set in stone, but the more you revisit it, the more traction you get in the business. So, go into that document. I'm going to take those questions one by one. So, core values. Very popular term. Popularized by many authors along the way. Patrick Lencioni, if you've read his books or know about him, has really popularized this term. But it's about having meaningful core values. And when we talk about core values, these are the things that, for an owner, an entrepreneur, and his or her leadership team, that really come from inside. So when we talk about core values, you actually discover your core values. They already exist within you, personally, and then you'll bring those right into your business. So we help you discover, those are revealed in the room. We don't impart core values on there. We actually talk very specifically about that difference. So core values, critical there. These are the things that you will utilize when it comes time to talk about your people. Right? You want people that are aligned with you and your organization's core values, and you really want to attract the people that are aligned with those core values, and frankly, repel those that are not. And when you get really good, you're actually talking about that in terms of partners and vendors that you work with. Right? You want to be working with those that see things the way you see things. Right? The next category is your core focus. This is what we call the sweet spot of your business. Where do you want to spend your time? What are you really good at? But more importantly, what shouldn't you be spending your time on? Some great stories in the book Traction about companies that lose their way because they chase the bright, shiny object. Okay, I started in this business. A client told me they wanted this, and so I ran over here and I started to do this business. But that distracted from the reason I got into business in the first place, and I got away from my true, in my gut, this is what I want to do, the purpose, the passion I had for starting business. Right? So what is it that you're really passionate about? What is the thing that got you started? Stay there and get laser focused on that. Put your energies in on that. Don't get distracted by the bright, shiny objects. That which you know is your core focus. And that's what we want to help you reveal. Once again, you already know it. When we work, we facilitate to have our clients tell us really what is that, and don't get distracted by it. And I've had some really great conversations with clients about this very topic, and we've actually had them stop doing some things that they were doing because it was this bright, shiny object sitting over here that my client told me to chase down because this one time they wanted it. Well, that's not a reason to go after it. So, core focus, right, sweet spot. Mentioned this earlier, your 10-year target. This is where it gets a little interactive, but I want you to take a minute or so and think about where do you want your business to be in 5 years, 10 years. The number is yours. We use 10 in general. Our current company's core target is 2030, so we set it, I think, a year ago or so an 8-year target. So just take, this should be something that's big and bold and broad, but can be measured. I want to have X amount of clients, I want to be in X place in my business, I want to have X amount of employees, I want to have X amount of profit, but take a minute, think about what your 10-year target or 8-year target might be. This should be just one item, one goal that you can really get your arms around, but it's going to be the guiding force as you start to set your shorter term goals. We actually have a similar document to this for a personal VTO as well. And so using a document like this for you personally to say, where do I want to be by 2030? What does that look like for me? What does my life look like? What does my work look like? What does my role look like? Can really start to channel the energy that you have towards that one thing, and you know where you're going. It's not a random highway that you're on, but it's very specific set of directions about where you're going, and then you're building up to that through all of your thinking there. So does anyone want to share their 10-year target, their big audacious goal that's out there?
I want financial independence.
Okay.
Like, I would love to have like 20 clients, 3 employees, 200,000 a year.
Nice.
I don't know if that's small, because I've never been like a big business owner, being a teacher my whole life, you know, we always got paid diddly stuff. So it's like, wait, no, I'm gonna think big, big, big.
Sure.
Yes.
Absolutely. The important thing is that it's yours, and it's big enough to get you excited about, but not so big that's not realistic, right? I'm not going to have you're not telling me I'm going to have a $10 million home watch business, right? I'm going to have, you could, but whatever that number is, that it's going to be something that you can get your arms around. Whenever we talk about running those goals, it's got to be something that is relevant to you, but it's also attainable, right? We use the acronym SMART whenever we're talking about setting these kinds of targets, right? Very specific, which you've mentioned down there. You can measure it, right? It is attainable and it's relevant, and obviously we set the time down. And then you got to think about, is that 2030? Is it actually 10 years from now, 33? But you got to know where you're going on that, right? So I mentioned earlier, EOS, big audacious goal, 19,000 companies around. Our number is 100,000 by 2030. That's a lot of work between now and 2030 to make that happen. It's a lot more people like me added to the organization, building out, but that is where we're headed. And we actually also have a target just for this year in Arizona to help make that happen, right? So that as you put those numbers out there, everyone's energy gets lined up, and when that energy kind of gets all flowing in that same direction, some really good stuff can happen. So, 10-year target, right? Make it be more for you. Did you want to share?
My goal is to be retired.
Awesome. It's great.
In 10
right?
years.
That's
So
good, yeah.
I want my company to be at the point where it is, completely self-sufficient. We're kind of changing our model right now to own our own properties, so that
Nice.
hopefully just the rental income of the business on the property will be a big part of our retirement.
I love it. I love it. And to the degree that you can make that specific so that it's really said, what does that mean in terms of either revenues or profits that would allow for that? Be thinking about that way, because as you put those numbers down on a piece of paper, it gets real fast.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the second day that I entered my EOS journey, I was writing what I wanted to be by 2030, and like, what does that number look for me? I didn't have a client. I was trying to figure out what I was doing, but just starting to get my energy towards it. I haven't changed it yet now that I've been doing this for a while, so it's still there for me. So getting your energies around that. Great. So marketing strategy. You got to know how you're going to get there, right? So core values, who you are as an individual, what you're bringing to the company. Core focus, what do you do, right? What is it that thing that gets you up in the morning, gets you going every day? 10-year target, where you're going. Well, to get there, how are you going to get there? Well, this is the marketing strategy. It's kind of the how part of how you're going to make that all happen. And we divide the marketing strategy into 4 different areas. So the first area of the marketing strategy is making sure that you know clearly who you're going after. Who is your ideal client? Right? What are those people that you need to bring into your business? Most small business owners, there's limited dollars available for marketing. There's limited time, limited resources. So you've got to make sure that you utilize those resources that you've got in the best way possible. So we help you narrow down what is that target market, what does it look like for you, and channeling your energy and your resources into going after that list of clients. Right? The target market for EOS, companies with 10 to 250 employees, 2 to 50 million, right? That we're very clear about. That is our target market. Doesn't mean we don't work with others where it makes sense on either side of that, but that 10 to 250 entrepreneurial small business owner companies, that makes up 80% of our business. So I'm very specific who we're going after. The 3 uniques, this is your competitive advantage. These are the things that you do different than all of your competitors that set you apart. And one or two of them may be similar to other companies in your space, but it's the three of them together that set you apart. So what are the three things that make your business different, unique than those that are in the same space? At EOS, we say vision and traction and healthy. And the healthy part is building cohesive leadership teams that like working together, which can be hard as you grow. So what's your vision? Where are you going? How are you going to get there? Traction, the discipline, execution, the accountability to do so. And then healthy, being open and honest, working with one another, building a functional, cohesive leadership team. That's the three uniques for EOS. Right, so thinking about EOS, when you talk about that, they're saying that to those target market clients. This is what I'm about. This is how I do it differently. Proven process. Some companies have this, some don't. I will share the EOS proven process with you. The proven process is a one-pager, an illustration of how you work with a client from the time that they're a prospect to the time that they are a trusted, proven partner of yours. And that journey that someone's expecting to go on. So let's share the proven process here. When we work with a potential client, we just show them exactly this is what it's going to look like. You're going to walk through, we're going to walk through these steps with our clients each and every time, and the process is consistent, and what we go through each and every time with our clients, they know what to expect when they go on this journey. And so we encourage our clients to do the same. What is going to happen when someone engages with you? And the more that you can share that with them, the more likely they are to be that proven partner down the line. So that's the proven process. It's a one-page illustration of your business and the relationship you have with your clients. And the last thing is guarantee. This is the guarantee, the pledge, the promise that you're making to anyone that chooses to do business with you. Some folks have it, some don't. At EOS we do, which is that we actually do never accept any payment from a client till after we spend the day with them. So we are putting ourselves out there each and every time, adding value to the client's work, and saying to you, if you didn't get the value that we promised you in this day, then you do not need to pay for the day that we just spent together. That's the guarantee that we make to our clients. Many of our clients, you see this in a lot of different places. Some are putting themselves even further out there than others, but if you have a guarantee, it can really overcome a potential obstacle to doing business with you if you want to put something out there. Right? So this becomes the strategy. Once again, simple, right? It's not a big, huge market strategy, but who are you going after? What are you going to say when you get there? What does the journey look like when they work with you? And what is it you need to put in place to help overcome any objections before you get started? It becomes your marketing strategy. Okay. Now that we've got this kind of getting this down to the ground, we switch over into starting to really predict on a shorter term basis to achieve that 10-year target. So we start with a 3-year picture, and we use the word picture very specifically here. So once we set the date out there and think about what do those numbers need to look like, so if it's 200K in 10 years, what happens to happen in 3 years to make that happen? Or 200K, whatever the number ends up being, what has to happen at the 3-year mark? So where do I need to be in terms of revenues and profit, and what is a measurable number of clients, average ticket per client? And there's different things you put in here, but what does that need to look like at the 3-year mark in order to get you to where you want to be at the 10-year mark? And then we have our clients list 5 to 15 things that need to happen to make those numbers work. Over the course of the next years, I need to accomplish these things. And we use the word picture. We really want them to kind of sit back, close their eyes and say, let me get in my mind here, let me put in my mind's eye, what is it that I have to do to make that happen? We don't want to wish it. What are the steps? You're very clear. When I own my own buildings, what are the things that I want to do? Can that happen in 3 years? Okay, what are the steps that have to happen today to enable that mark? Could happen before then, but starting to think about the specifics and the actions that'll have to happen in that period of time, right? And really, really picture it. So 3-year picture, we do some predictions, 5 to 15 items that are going to enable that to happen. Then we flip to our execution side and drop down to a 1-year plan. So what's got to happen this year to get to the 3-year, to get to the 10-year, right? So we want to get this down to the ground here. Once again, every time we set this, we actually put real numbers on here to make sure that you're not dreaming and that you're moving towards that. And we want these numbers that you sit on here, we actually call them predictors, not a forecast, because we want you to get really good at predicting. And so put those predictors out there, and then we have you list 3 to 7 goals for the year. What needs to happen this year to enable the 3-year? So these are the biggest items. And we only say 3 to 7, because if you put 23 on there, well, if everything's important, nothing gets important. You're a small business owner, you have to prioritize. There's a lot of stuff going on, so you've got to prioritize the really big things. So 3 to 7 goals for this year to enable your 1-year plan. Then we go into a 90-day where we spend tons of time getting our clients to think in 90-day increments. There is something about human nature, which 90 days, you kind of working through that and you get towards the end of the quarter and you're forgetting what you signed up for, and it's just a great period of time to reset. And when we get to that 90-day mark, we say, okay, let's take a second here. Let's look back at what we just accomplished over these last 90 days, and let's plan the next 90. But you put it in these bite-sized chunks, so to speak, in an effort to enable what's going to happen at the 1-year and the 3-year on towards your longer-term target. In the 90-day world, which we call our 90-day plannings, our 90-day world, we use the term ROCks. That's borrowed from Vern Harnish and popularized by Stephen Covey, but it's really, what are the big items? You have hundreds of items that you've got to do when you're in a small business space. What are the big items that you've got to take on? We call them ROCks. Identify 3, 5 ROCks that need to get done in this next 90 days. And if you've got a team, not only for the company, but what are your leaders' individual ROCks that they're going to take on? So we set ROCks for both the company as well as for individuals at that time. So you're individually think about, what do my next 90 days look like? What do I need to get done? How am I going to help move the company forward? And we come back together, think about what we did, where we're going. And then lastly, I mentioned this earlier, key discipline for an entrepreneurial organization is to make sure that as issues come up, they always find their way onto a list, and we help you work through that. I'll show you just a little bit here about how you work through issues, but every time an item comes up, we want to put it in a spot, so we have a running track of issues list, and then we teach you how to work through those issues by prioritizing them and then solving them forever using IDS. I'll talk about that in just a second. So this is the VTO, and where we spend time in our first few meetings with our clients helping to build out their VTO. So the second part of, going back to our vision, I jumped ahead a little bit. The second component here is what we call shared by all. So not only is it important individually, as an owner of the business or as your leadership team, to get your VTO in place, but you actually want to tell the rest of the team what it is that's going on. So share the plan. Get them excited about where you're going. So that quarterly 90-day world, we actually ask our clients, get out there in front of them. Tell them what's going on. Stay consistent with it. But share where you're going with them. It can be amazing to get that energy behind it. If folks are excited about where we're headed as an organization, you're going to get that energy helping you along the way as well. It's not going to feel like it's just all you pulling folks along with you, but folks are excited to help move the business forward. So you want to share that out. And so 100% strong here is a VTO that's in place, that's revisited, and everyone in the organization knows where you're going and how you're going to get there. That's our 100% strong, or that vision component. Questions on that? What's that? Good. Okay. So next component is the people component. We borrow from Jim Collins here. We take a lot of contributions from, and we give a lot of credit to folks who we work with here, but Jim really popularized the terminology right people and right seats. I'm going to take them one at a time. So we're going to talk about right people. Right people are the folks that fit your organization like the glove. These are the folks that are aligned with your core values, and we actually have a really unique tool, very simple tool, to help make sure that you've got the right people in your organization. And so this tool that we use is called the People Analyzer, and this is to make sure that the folks that are in your organization are aligned with your core values. So you see in your workbook there's a list of core values. on the page. You may have some others, but as you think about what is core to you and identify those core values, we actually have you use those core values once they're decided on to assess your people. And are they the right people for your organization? So I'm going to go ahead and use the EOS core values to share this. Our first core value is humbly confident, grow or die, which means constantly learning and growing, help first, helping out others along our way and along our journey. We always try to do the right thing, right? Core value for us. And lastly, we do what we say we're going to do. So those are our core values. And so whatever the core values are for your organization, list those across the top. And then you list your people down here along the side. And you can do a very quick assessment of the people in your organization using this people analyzer. So it's not guesswork as to whether you have the right people who are aligned with your core values in your organization. And the scoring system is pretty simple. It's either plus, plus, minus, or minus, which means they most of the time are with your core values, some of the time share your core values, or most of the time they do not share your core values. So in our example, we just fill out this for all of our folks in our organization, and then we also set a ratings bar using the same scale. So we expect, if we have 5 core values, that at minimum 3 pluses and 2 plus minuses. Any minus is a no. That person's not a right person for our organization. You have to have a plus minus, 3 pluses and 2 plus minuses. And this is the bar that we set. Comfortable for this level when that visionary is sitting there in the integrator seat, because you are chasing squirrels. You're chasing bright shiny objects all over the place. I've been in these organizations. I know what it feels like. And if you don't have a governor on that visionary, that idea person, well, stuff can hit the fan. So it's great when you have these two in balance, when you've got to that size of an organization. This book right here called Rocket Fuel is what was written about this relationship. When you have a visionary and an integrator working harmoniously, they're in sync, you add rocket fuel to your business and it takes off. When you have miscast individuals in those roles, well, you have a little bit of craziness. And you just got to know it, you got to realize it, you got to work to fix it. But we try to reveal to our clients, what have you got here? And that's no names, right? That doesn't matter. The owner may be here and they may need someone there. So Gina was the visionary of this when it started. Yeah, so also was a pretty good integrator, but now we have a different person that's our visionary for our organization. He's not the CEO. He's not the president. He is the visionary. And then we have an integrator, and she is the one that gets stuff done. So these are the titles that we use in our, we have our clients. If a company's running an EOS, this is what's their title. We don't put other titles on there, so we get rid of those. So I said structure first. So when we talk about these seats, so we say, what is the function that you're doing? We can pick on one, we'll call it operations, but what are we putting there? We have our clients go through what are the 5 roles that this seat, this function is accountable for. We do no more than 5 because we want these at a high level, but everyone then knows what the heck it is that they're responsible for, right? Their butt is on the line for A, B, C, D, E, right? So the name of the function, then the roles that make up the responsibilities for that function. So just taking an example here. So let's look at our marketing sales function. At a high level, this is our term, EOS term, LMA. It stands for lead, manage, hold folks accountable. Right? So anyone that manages people in an EOS organization, their first role is LMA. And we teach our clients what that means. But LMA is high level. You're responsible for people. That's what it means to be responsible for people. Honestly, marketing. Anything that has to do with marketing, not the details of that, but marketing sits in the seat. They got to drive the sales numbers in the seat. They might have to get out there and sell themselves, and they're going to manage the big accounts. High level, this is what the seat does. But when you're going out there to find your next sales and marketing person in your entrepreneurial organization, it's not a 5,000 person corporation where they've got all these different titles. You need this stuff done as the owner, founder of the organization. That's critical. Now, I've got one company where the visionary is also sitting in that seat because that's what he's really good at and likes. He's not so good at the other stuff, but that's his seat, so he spends some time out there. We talk about how to balance that time. Right? So just taking an example here, this was done in in Detroit, so we're gonna use a hockey example. Okay, so I know it resonates only a little bit out here in Arizona, but if the function is to be the center of your hockey team, right? His or her responsibilities, they do the face-offs, right? Win the puck, create chances and set up their teammates on there. Obviously, we need them to score goals. They've got to do some defending and don't give the puck to the other team, right? High level, these are the roles for the center there, right? Just as an example, just to make it easy, bring it close, bring it down to earth a little bit. The other part of the right seat conversation and the tool that we use here is something we call GWC. And we turn that into a verb. I know it's an EOS thing, we do this a lot. GWC stands for gets it. They understand the work. They have the experience, the mentality, the academic training to do the work, right? They're going to handle my finances, and they actually have a finance degree. They are an accountant. They've got an accounting degree. They may be a CPA, right? They fundamentally, they get that work. They want it. This is the thank God it's Monday person. I'm up and I'm after it. I want to do this work, right? So they really have a passion for whatever the work is that they're doing. The 5 things there, right? The center of the hockey team wakes up, is really glad it's game day because this is what I'm working at. I got to win the face-ups. I got to make sure my teammates are set up. I got to put the puck in the net, right? They want that work. And then the last is they actually have the capacity to do it. They've got the time capacity and potentially the learning capacity to be able to take on the work associated with the function. So when we talk to our clients, we say, does he or she GWC the role? Do they get it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity to do it? And so when we take that concept and we come back to our people analyzer, we throw that over here. So now Maria is the right person, right? All pluses, aligns with the core values. Is she also the right seat? Well, in our example, yes. She gets it. She wants his capacity to do it. Maria can run our sales of our team. She can be the center on our hockey team. Right? The bar for GWC is only yeses. There's no room for any of the less. Just share a little story. Been going through this with our team. We run our shop on EOS, and I've been going through this concept, and it has resulted in some changes within the folks that we count on to do certain functions in our business because, unfortunately, the wants it was not strong enough, and that was getting in the way and causing more work for my wife, who's really the integrator of that business, and so we had to make some changes in there, but we were able to use this terminology to help do that. So the individual was a right person, just didn't want the function as we had defined it. Let's make change. And people will be happier when you go through this because if they're a no in one of these, or if they are not meeting this bar, they're going to feel like a square peg in a round hole in your business. So you're doing them a favor. So let's talk about what happens when things go awry. So I'm sorry, I'm going to just jump through this quickly. When we work with an organization, this is what we build out for the whole organization. Now we start with our leadership teams, so that's kind of that first level that I talked about, but you actually build this through the whole company, and it actually does 2 things for you. One, really makes your job descriptions to attract the right talent easy because you already have defined the function that you need. You're not trying to find work for someone that's part of the company. You've already set the structure. Can they do the work that's there, right? So you start structure first, and then we spill this down all the way through whatever levels of the organization that exist as you grow. So that's the good news, right? Structure first, right people, right seats. What happens, right? We said we got to have both. So if you got a people issue, it's the right person. We like them. They're great to hang around with. They match our core values. They may be a family member, right? We have a lot of family-owned businesses. Right person in there, but they're the wrong seat. They actually don't have this skill set, or they don't have the wanted, right, GWC, the C, to actually stay in that spot. If the company is large enough, it's great when you can find the right seat for that right person. If you can't, and you're running a for-profit business, this can be dangerous because you have someone on the payroll that is not moving the business forward based on what you've determined you needed by the structure first. So that's one. Now the dangerous one is the second one. This is wrong person, right seat. This is the person that actually can do the work really, really well. They totally get it. They want it. They woke up. They've always wanted to be an accountant. They're an accountant. Give me the numbers. I'm going to sit here and be an accountant. But they have zero alignment with core values, or they're on that people analyzer with way too many minuses. This is the dangerous part. Because these folks can be cancer in the organization, kind of picking away at things. You may not even see it underneath when you're not in a meeting, when you're not involved in there. What are they saying? What's happening around? This is trouble with a capital T and needs to be addressed as soon as possible, which can be tough in a small business. I know this from experience. This can be tough, but when you overlook it, it actually eats away at your business and it will not allow you to move forward in the way that you want when you have that going on, when you've got someone that is not the right person. So, right person, right team, you have both those. And so our 100% strong is a structurally sound accountability chart with all of the right people aligned with your core values. That's what we're looking for in that. The rest of this is going to go much faster, but vision and people, we start there, the most critical things. And I would say that 70% of the challenges that we face when we get into working with our clients are around people. And it could be structural, it could be values driven. You never know until you get in there. But that healthy part of our vision traction, that we spend a lot of time there. Now, when we get to the other side of that, our companies take off. That is oftentimes one of the reasons why they're being united. The evil is in this particular component for sure. The data component, this tool is also in your book. We're going to introduce here. But data, as we talk about, is just running your business on facts and figures, not gut instinct, emotion, feel, right? So, great quote. If we have data, let's look at the data. If all we have are opinions, we'll go with mine. So, founder of Netscape. But right, have the data. Run your business on the facts and figures, because without it, you're going to be going on instinct. Maybe you have great instincts inside, and you know what it looks like, great, that's awesome. But if you've got the data, it's actually going to reinforce that the decisions that you're making are the right ones. So the first tool that we use in the data component is the scorecard tool. We use a very simple scorecard, activity-based scorecard in our EOS companies, in our businesses. And I'm just going to walk through what a scorecard might look like. This is a tool that you as an individual can absolutely bring into your business starting tomorrow. Right? This does not need to be, so Debbie, looking at you, this is something that you can bring on and can really bring, what are the hours I'm spending, how do I want to track that, right? But let's just talk about what scorecard is. In your book, like there's a list of common measurables, we'll just list here, but when we build a scorecard with a client, we put our measurables right on the scorecard. 5 to 15, less is more, particularly in a small biz, but less is more here, so 5 to 15 measurables on here. And then most importantly, as your business grows, first we want to put a goal with each one, so everyone's got it, and these are weekly, so a weekly target. But most importantly, who's accountable, right? You got to put a name next to the measurable. Someone's on the hook for that particular item, right? So we've got to have 50 sales calls. He's in our sales seat, so Robert's going to make sure that 50 sales calls happen each and every week. These are activity-based weekly metrics. Not outcomes, but actually work that can be done proactively to make happen, right? And then we just fill the scorecard in each week. And the second part of this is we actually not only do it for the week, but we build it backwards for the last 13 weeks. Which at the beginning looks like a lot to complete. You may already have to be doing some of this, but it gives you a real sense of the trends, and it also becomes a real predictor. Right, so we can go back to that VTO, 90 days. What am I predicting? Well, you can see what's happening. If my sales calls drop in the red, my closes are going to drop in the red. My client count's going to drop. Well, revenue is going to be impacted, right? That you start to see what's going on. So if the activity's not there, well, the outcomes aren't going to be there. Help me realize what I predicted for the quarter, for the year, etc. So 90-day world, 13-week locus is about the equivalent of 90 days, filling the scorecard out and utilizing it. This is a discipline that that I find with working in with some small companies that if you don't stay on top of, it can easily get away from you, and then you're just winging it. But it can cause this feeling of discomfort and frustration because I don't know why my business isn't growing there. Well, if you don't have a sense of what the activities are that you're doing, it can get in the way. Right? So scorecard, something can put in.
Errors.
What's that? Yeah.
Errors.
Errors. Depending on the business, right, that maybe is that acceptable or not. I have someone that says we can have 0 errors. I'm like, are you sure? 0 errors? But okay.
Okay.
It just depends on it.
Wow.
But this one, less than 4 is okay, right? So scorecard, client count is always a good one, right? But the activities, right? For what is the amount of time that you're spending doing those things to drive business, and particularly in a small business, it is about those marketing activities. Are they the right ones, and how many of them do I need to have on a weekly basis? So going back. There's just a few measurables that are in your workbook there. The second thing is, as the company grows, we want to make sure that every individual in the organization has something that he or she is measured by. Right? So, like say, every employee has a number. It can be to whatever extreme you want. In a really large company, and someone's sole job may just be, I sit here and I greet clients and I answer the phone. Well, okay, how quickly do you answer the phone? So your number is 3. The phone is ring more than 3 times, right? That's the measurable that we would hold someone that may be in that role versus someone else that's got a different set of responsibilities, right? But we can actually get this so that everyone in the organization has a measurable, some degree of accountability, right? That's how you're going to gain traction in the whole business, is that accountability is up and down throughout the organization. So having a scorecard in place, every person has a measurable, that's 100% strong in your data component. So as I mentioned earlier, you now have where you're going, how you're going to get their vision. You've got the right structure and the right people in your business to drive it. You know where all the challenges are because you've got the data, the real metrics to drive it. Well, guess what's going to be revealed are all the things that are your issues. They kind of, here's the stuff, right? It's now like there's transparency in your organization. So the first discipline is building your issues list. And this is just making sure that anything that pops up finds its way onto a list. We actually help you build out a spot for every issue with something we call compartmentalization. Down the line, we're not going to talk about that today, but there's a home for every issue in EOS. But the first discipline is just building the darn list. So make sure that every issue that you have finds its home onto a list, and then we figure out how we're going to address it. And I'm going to introduce the second tool right now, which is called IDS. Debbie had a little look into this, but this is how we solve issues. We call this is our issue solving track. It's in your book as well, and I'm going to walk through IDS with you very briefly, but to give you a sense of how you knock these issues down so you address them one time and they go away forever. All right. So here's an issues list. You got 7 here. Most companies have a lot more, but we'll start with our issues list of 7. So when we talk about solving issues with our clients, we can actually take this acronym IDS and turn it into a verb. We IDS issues, right? It's now a verb. So IDSing. We do this all the time. Spend a lot of time with our clients on this. So IDSing, the I's identify. You got to know the root of the issue. Oftentimes you got to really, really dig down deep into figuring out what is going on, why is that an issue, understanding the root cause. We then discuss it with the people in the room there, in the team, understanding what's going on, getting all the details around that, and lastly, we move to solve. Right? Let's have a solution so that this thing gets taken care of. What often happens, I can speak to this firsthand, others may as well if you've been in any sort of meeting, is all this time spent discussing the issue. And oftentimes, nothing gets done. And then, guess what? You get to set a meeting outside the meeting you're currently in to go solve this thing. Because all we did is discuss. People love to discuss in politics. And if I say it more than once, then someone's going to come over my side. I'll say it a second or a third time. Surely they'll come to my side of the equation soon enough. So we want to get you out of this habit of discussing and actually move into solving issues. So when we have an issues list, we get into an IDS session. The first thing we do is we prioritize the top 3 items as a group. So as we did, right, we just grabbed the list and said, okay, what pops off the page? Boom, that's number 1, number 2, number 3. And we take them one at a time. And we work on them until we've IDS the issues. So in this case, we're going to go through and talk about Andy, is Andy in the right seat? Oh, right, we talked about these people issues end up being 70% of the problems that small businesses are facing. So we're going to go ahead and identify what's going on with Andy. Why is this a right seat issue? What are the root cause? What are the elements that make Andy put in the wrong seat? Don't know what it is. One of the 5 roles could be anything, right? Don't have the right training. I don't know. The roles changed. Whatever it is. When we do that, we have a brief discussion. Everyone gets to weigh in. One time only, right? We don't politic. We don't go repeat ourselves over and over again. And then we do something about it. We solve it. We take an action. We make a decision. Typically, our integrator from earlier is the person that's doing that. They're making that call. We're moving on. But what we don't want to do is keep talking about Andy in this example. Right? Solve the issue, have it go away forever. And then once we're done with Andy, however long it takes, because we've said Andy's the most important thing for my small business to deal with right now. I may not get through all 7. And if it takes all of our time to work through Andy in that particular, then that's what you do, because it's the most important thing. Prioritize, focus on the most important things. But soon we get done with Andy, then we flip over to website. What's going on with the website? Identify the root cause, what's the problem there, discuss what we could possibly do about it, let's make a decision. We're getting a third party, do we have to hire somebody, we're going to live with the errors, whatever it is, solved. Don't want to come back to it. So on, so on, so on. Rinse, repeat until whatever period of time is set for issues, done, then you're done with it. The beautiful thing about IDS and this, in my mind, particularly for a small business owner, is these issues you'll talk about morning, noon, and night, because it's your business and your life, and it's what you do. And we want to help you get that out of your head, onto an issues list, and then set a proper time to IDS them. But if you're always talking about it at lunch, or then when you come home at night and with your spouse, or then you're taking a phone call late at night, and it goes, unless it's a burning platform, put it on the list, talk about it in its proper time, and be dedicated to it. And you'll actually start to have things get out of your cluttered head. Because they live there for a long time if you don't. And it can be dangerous, and it can also cause those frustrations we talked about early on. So that's IDS, that's the issue solving track. And we go through this process all the way through. So those are the 2 components of our issues. All right, getting strong. Every issue makes its way into a list. And everybody that works in the company is comfortable in raising an issue. Right? That's the discipline there. And then we all work on IDS together. Let's talk about process. We wrote a whole book on process here. We have a process book, the sexy component, but actually one of the more critical components. But we do this in an entrepreneurial way when we talk about process. So when we talk about process, the first thing we help our clients do is document their processes, but we do it at a very high level, an entrepreneurial level. We do not build 200-page owner's manuals, process manuals. That will never be looked at again and sit there and collect dust on someone's shelf. These should be real documents that are usable, but also pulled together in such a way that they're able to be shared all the time. So in an entrepreneurial organization, there are typically just a handful of core processes, and we document them, as I said, at a high level. So you typically will have some sort of people process. How am I bringing someone into the organization, and when they're here, how do I handle them? Like, what is that process for them? What is the cycle of performance reviews? Whatever those things are. So how do you hire them? How do you manage them? There's a people process. There's typically some sort of marketing process. This is how we gather clients. They're on the web, they click on here, they go here, they fill out this order form, someone calls them. All right, I build out a marketing process. Sales process. Marketing brings me a client. Great, I have that. We make an initial call. Are they really interested? We set an appointment. We go out there and we go to sell them something. Right, so you have a sales process. You have a couple operational processes. You may have a process which allows the client to be onboarded, and then you have a maintaining process, and then you may actually have a back end if they decide to leave you, a retention process. But you've got a couple of operational processes, a customer service process, and then some sort of accounting, finance process to count the money. High level, these are unique to any organization. We help you identify what your core processes are, and then you document them. And so we help you build your process manual that is really skinny and thin, and not one of these things that you never go to again. So your table of contents for your document are those core processes that we help you identify, and this becomes your way of doing business. So it looks like this. Here's the people process I mentioned. It's high level. Here's how I'm gonna bring them on board, here's how I'm gonna train them, here's how I would work through managing them, and ultimately, if they're exiting, what's it look like? Super high level, right? 1-2 pages is all you need, right? Sales process, same thing, super high level, and then you start to build out your process manual, but it only is 6 or 7 processes, it's only 1 or 2 pages, it's easily referenced, and it becomes your way of doing business. So, this quote here, systemize the predictable, the things that you want to do the right, best way every time, consistently, so you can humanize when you've got to go outside that process and make an exception. So, document those core processes, make them simple. And then the second thing you do when you have a process is you actually have to make sure that they get followed. And they're followed by everyone in the organization. So, we have a little checklist for that. Right? Simple. Did you train the individual on the process for their seat? Right? We talked about their function. Right? So did you train them on that? Now that you've trained them, how do you measure them to make sure they're doing it the right way, following that you've laid out? Are you providing the right leadership and management for that person and holding them accountable to that? And then if the process changes, you update, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, right? So make sure that your processes are documented and then followed by all. That's our process area right there. Once again, simple but not easy. You've got to go through and document them. Talk to a client. He did find this to be the most challenging, but once you get on the other side of it, there's a big, because you now, those issues that you're fighting right now, they end up getting solved by having those processes documented. All right. So our last area is our traction area. We've talked about the 2 disciplines or tools that we use here. The first are rocks. These are your 90-day high-level priorities. We build rocks every 90 days, and then we score how you're performing against those rocks. But this will help drive that discipline and accountability. And when we talk about that, our 90-day world, and then we help companies establish a regular meeting pulse. I'm going to introduce the meeting pulse that we use on a weekly basis, just to give you an example. But our meeting pulse with our clients is a 2-day annual planning session, a quarterly review of the business, and then a weekly set meeting schedule where we talk about things that are most important for that week. And you stay on that meeting pulse, weekly, quarterly, annually, and that's how you build the traction in your business, revisiting these items as you go through. So I'm just going to walk you through this meeting pulse agenda because it actually brings together a lot of these components we talked about. So when we sit down to pulse, same day, same time, every week. Really critical. We also always start and end on time. That's discipline. You can't let whomever is the chronic late person get away with being the chronic late person. Doesn't work. That's not the discipline you need in your organization. So let's align. The beautiful thing here is you never have to create the agenda for the meeting. You just have to bring the documents because it's the same darn agenda each and every time you have this. And Debbie, just so that you know, I actually have my own weekly level 10 with myself to hold myself accountable to this. So you can use this tool, even though it's just you meeting with yourself. Because I know you like to talk to yourself. But you can do this because this discipline will help get you set up. So start the meeting the same way every time. Good news. Get your team out of the space of being in the business. What's going well? What's good personally? What's good professionally? Real quick, but it kind of humanizes everything, gets everyone, okay, I'm now into this meeting. So a good news meeting, a good news segment really quick, and then we do updates. One way, we go through that scorecard. We go through where we are with our 90-day rocks updates. Are they on track or off track? And then we talk quickly about any customer headlines and if there are any employee headlines that we need to talk about. These are one-way updates, but as you can see in our level 10, we talk about traction, staying and working towards your vision. Well, you already have in here, scorecard is our data component. Rock review is our traction component. Customer and employee is our people component. Right? So we're actually reinforcing the components each and every week. That's how you start to get from that whatever percent strong to 80%, 100% strong. Reporting only one way, then we're into a review of our to-dos. Right? Weekly, when we solve an issue, inevitably someone's got to go do something. So we recap, did the to-dos move to to-dos? right? And our goal every week is 90% done. So don't take on something that you can't do in a week and talk about it in here. This is a week-to-week discipline. So a quick review of to-dos. But what we then find instead here is that the items that are off track on your scorecard review or your ROC review, they drop down and become the issues you need to address. And this is that running list of issues that you're going to IDS. And for an EOS client, your weekly meeting's 90 minutes long, and 60 minutes, 2/3 of that meeting, is solving the most important issues in the business. Using IDS, going through the issues, creating your to-dos for the next week, and then running through this cycle. Once we're done at 60 minutes, we conclude our meeting. We make sure that everything and anyone that's got it to do, it's been captured. We make sure if there's a message that here needs to be shared with the rest of the team, it's cascaded, and we give ourselves a score on a scale of 1 to 10, holding ourselves accountable to running a good meeting. We call it a level 10 meeting because we want to achieve a target of 10 in our meetings, right? Scale from 1 to 10, so we rate those meetings. We do this discipline each and every week. That's the meeting post weekly. It's a similar format that we handle in our quarterly meetings, and then ultimately in our annual meetings. Just to give you a sense of this, we actually use this in our quarterly meetings with like 80 people with them so that they can see how this process is working, what's important to them, can see that we're actually helping to solve those issues that they're encountering week to week. So it can be done, it's a little bit different. We always start with a leadership team.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. So that's our traction component, 90-day rocks, establish meetings goals at 10% strong. So that's the model. We did it in the time frame allotted. I did want to just stop on a couple of items here that I will open up for questions, but just a couple takeaways that are in your book as well. So the foundational tools of EOS that we spend all the time with our clients trying to help them to master. One is that VTO, your 2-page business plan that anyone can take on, and as I mentioned, if interested, I actually have one for personal as well. Structure. Having the structure is foundational to the business. So having that in place, making sure that you've got 90-day rocks, making sure that you're following your meeting goals, and that you've got a scorecard in place. These are foundational in EOS. And one of these, take away, put them in your business. You can get something from there. Resources for you. So clients that when we talk to clients, there's a couple different ways you can work with EOS. You can go on the website. There's stuff there for free that you can pull down. So we make a lot of this available for free, right? You can if you're a reader. Did you have a book?
I do have a book.
You have a book? Would you like?
No, yeah.
Read the book. This information is in there as well. You can take this on yourself. Some of our clients will read the books and do this themselves. They don't need that coach, which is absolutely welcome, right? They want to try it out themselves and do that. It's what can happen within that space is just like, as we say, sometimes you're going to the gym and that's all well and good, but I can actually up my game if I get a personal trainer, if that's how you want to be, right? So in many ways, that's the role that we play. But you can do this yourself through the library and the tools available on the website. There is a subscription there as well, which gives you access to a little bit more of the material that's in there. So you can actually do a subscription there, or you can work with a coach, someone like me that comes in. So there's a couple different ways to have your company run on EOS and just kind of figure out what works best for you in your situation. As I mentioned at the beginning, we just encourage anyone that's in a business, running a business, pick a system. Don't pick 3. Pick one, stick with it. It resonates with you, makes sense, great. Run on that. But have something that you can come back to run your business. Don't just be random, be intentional. This should help you get what you want from your business, whatever you set out to do originally when you had this great idea for a business. This is just a little testimony from one of our clients. We have hundreds of these. But it's about control. It's about getting control, because you have this own business, and if it dominates your life, although some people really are addicted to that, there has to be something more, right? So getting control, right? Get your arms around it. So when we say get a grip in your business, it's really about get your arms around it. Get some grip, get some feeling of, okay, I know where I'm going, I know how I'm going to get there, and I know the things I need to do this week, this quarter, this year to make that happen. And that's what we're trying to encourage our clients to think about in their business. That's what I've got for you. I appreciate you guys letting me speak for all that time and run through it. Is there any questions? We got a few minutes left. I was a little bit long. We got 5 minutes or so. Any questions came up or anything?
I had one, but it went away a while
Okay.
ago.
Okay,
It comes
good.
back around, I know how to contact you.
Okay, yes. My contact information is in there. I included a little note. If you'd like to talk more, let me know in there. If you know of someone that, as you think about this, that would be good to hey, have a little intro to Scott. It's great to have a warm introduction. When I go to talk to a client, it's really about, can we help? Does it make sense? Does it fit? We know not every company is right. We really work with them to see if we are right. And so we offer to every one of our clients, the first step in our process is something we call a 90-minute meeting, where we actually sit down and go through with the owner and his or her leadership team, kind of walk through this again, but just showing them this is what it is that we will be working with them on. And 2 things need to happen in that meeting. One is, do you like EOS? Like, does it resonate with you? If it does, great. That's a good starting point. The second is, do you actually like Scott? Right? Do you like the person you're talking to? Because it gets intimate, right? We get involved with the business. But we are teachers and facilitators and coaches. We do not consult, so we're never going to tell you what to do. We want to show you what you're already doing and how you do it, right? The answer is always in the room of the leaders. We're just going to help extract it.
Yeah.
So when we can get an introduction to someone that you know with that background and they're willing to spend 90 minutes thinking about their business, we can start and see that. And that's why we start with that process, because they can't spend 90, well, then they're not going to be able to spend a full day, or in our case, a few full days to go through this. But I will walk them through that. So I left a little note there. If you've got someone, that would be great. I'm happy to reach out and contact or shoot me an email. We'll set up some time.